Nothing and nobody will ever hurt you again. Carl Jung Psychology. Have you ever longed to become someone unbreakable? A person, nothing, and nobody will ever hurt again. Someone who no longer feels that quiet ache gnawing at them beneath a composed exterior. Perhaps you're exhausted from constantly striving to meet others' expectations, from upholding an image of strength when all you truly crave is a moment of respite. A chance to lay down the armor and just be. But here's the truth. Unbreakability isn't about numbness. It's not the absence of pain, but the presence of something deeper, an unshakable core that remains intact even when life fractures everything around you. Imagine standing in a storm, not as a rigid wall that resists the wind, but as an ancient tree, rooted so deeply that it bends without breaking. The gales may strip its leaves, but its foundation holds. You've tried the usual defenses. Maybe you built walls, perfected indifference, or learned to deflect hurt with humor. Maybe you told yourself, if I'm strong enough, nothing can touch me. But strength, when misunderstood, becomes another cage. You lock away vulnerability, only to find that the very things you shut out, longing, fear, tenderness, are the same forces that make you human. And without them, you don't become invincible. You become hollow. What if true resilience isn't about shielding yourself from pain, but about transforming your relationship with it? What if the goal isn't to stop feeling, but to stop being controlled by those feelings? Think of the last time someone's words cut you, or a betrayal left you reeling. The wound wasn't just in the act itself. It was in the meaning you gave it. This proves I'm unworthy. I'll never be enough. If I were stronger, this wouldn't hurt. These are the real arrows, and they come from within. So how do you disarm them? By meeting yourself with ruthless honesty and radical compassion. By asking, why does this sting so deeply? What old wound is this touching? Every reaction is a clue. Anger often masks helplessness. Loneliness whispers of disconnection. The fear of criticism. It's usually the ghost of an old voice, a parent, a peer, a society, that taught you your worth was conditional. This is where the real work begins. Not in building taller walls, but in digging deeper wells. In learning to hold your own broken pieces without shame. In recognizing that you can be hurt and whole at the same time. The goal isn't to never feel pain. It's to no longer fear it. Because once you stop running from your own fragility, you'll find something astonishing. The things you thought would destroy you become the keys to your freedom. The next time criticism comes, instead of folding or fighting, you might pause and ask, is there truth here I can use? Or is this simply noise? When rejection strikes, you might grieve, but without letting it define you. And when betrayal cuts, you'll feel the rage, the sorrow, the disbelief. And then slowly, you'll remember, your worth was never in their hands to begin with. This is the path to becoming unbreakable. Not because pain can't reach you, but because it can't claim you. You'll still bleed, but you'll also heal, faster, wiser, with a quiet certainty that no storm can erase who you are. So tell me, where in your life have you been wearing armor instead of growing roots? Is it in the way you hold back your true thoughts in conversations, filtering yourself to avoid conflict? Or in the relationships where you keep people at arm's length, afraid that if they see the real you, they'll leave? Maybe it's in your work, the relentless pursuit of perfection, the fear of failure so paralyzing that you'd rather not try at all than risk falling short. That armor might look like control, tightly managing every detail so life can't surprise you. Or maybe it's humor, deflecting anything real with a joke before it gets too close. It could even be business, drowning out the quiet moments where doubt creeps in. Whatever its form, that armor was once a survival tactic. But ask yourself, what has it cost you? The intimacy of being truly known, the freedom of taking bold risks, the simple joy of existing without self-judgment. And what would it look like to finally let it go? Imagine waking up without the weight of that performance. Picture speaking your truth without rehearsing it first, loving without calculating the odds of getting hurt, failing without treating it as proof of your inadequacy. It wouldn't mean the absence of fear, but it would mean no longer letting fear dictate your choices. Letting go might start small, a deep breath before you reflexively say, "I'm fine." A conscious pause when you're tempted to shrink yourself to fit someone else's expectations. It could look like admitting, "This hurts," without rushing to fix it, or like celebrating a win without downplaying it as luck. There will be moments it feels like too much. Old habits whisper, "Armor up. It's safer." But roots don't grow in safety. They grow through tension, reaching deeper each time the wind bends them. And here's the miracle. The more you practice grounding instead of guarding, the more you'll discover that the vulnerabilities you feared were actually your anchors. So take this as your invitation, not to tear off the armor all at once, but to loosen one strap today. Notice where you've been wearing it. Ask, "What would I do if I weren't afraid of breaking?" Then lean, just an inch, into the answer. The ground beneath you is ready. Are you? But here's a truth few dare to speak. Avoiding pain only gives it power over you. The more you numb yourself, the more you build walls, the more you remain a prisoner to hurtful words, to broken trust, to the crushing weight of silence. This isn't weakness, it's the human condition. Some just hide it better than others. Carl Jung, the pioneering psychologist who mapped the depths of the human psyche, taught a radical truth. We are not defined by what happens to us, but by the meaning we give it and the choices we make in response. This is the alchemy of human experience. The power to transform suffering into wisdom, fear into clarity, and fragmentation into wholeness. The instinctive reaction to pain is often resistance, to build walls, to numb out, to armor ourselves in cynicism or denial. But Jung's insight reveals the paradox. What we exile into darkness only grows stronger in the shadows. The parts of ourselves we deem unacceptable, or grief, our rage, our perceived weaknesses, don't disappear when ignored. They fester. They surface in disguised forms. Self-sabotage, chronic anxiety, or the quiet erosion of self-trust. Integration, then, is the antidote. It's the deliberate act of reclaiming your disowned fragments, not to indulge them, but to understand their language. That not of shame when you fail. It's not proof of inadequacy. It's a signal from an old wound that needs acknowledgement. The anger that flares when you're dismissed. It's not irrational. It's the voice of a boundary waiting to be set. This is the sacred work of self-reclamation. To stop treating your emotions as enemies and start listening to them as guides. Yet this demands courage of the rarest kind. It's one thing to endure external hardships, loss, betrayal, failure. It's another to sit in the stillness of your own company and confront what you've spent years avoiding. The ways you've betrayed yourself to fit in, the love you withheld out of fear, the versions of strength you adopted that were really prisons in disguise. Here lies the turning point. Will you meet these truths with condemnation, or with the fierce compassion you'd offer a wounded child? Jung called this process individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming who you truly are, beyond conditioning and fear. It's not about achieving some flawless ideal, but about embracing the full spectrum of your humanity. The goal isn't to never feel broken. It's to recognize that even your fractures are part of your architecture. A stained glass window isn't diminished by its cracks. It's defined by how the light passes through them. So when life splinters you, as it will, remember, the invitation isn't to get over it, but to go through it. To ask, what is this pain here to teach me? Where have I abandoned myself? How can this breakdown become a breakthrough? This is how shadows are dissolved, not by fighting them, but by bringing them into awareness. Integration isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. It's choosing curiosity over judgment when you stumble. It's speaking your truth even when your voice shakes. It's forgiving yourself for the years you spent at war with your own heart. And with each act of reconciliation, you'll discover something astonishing. The very wounds you once hid become sources of unshakable resilience. Not because the pain disappears, but because you've learned to hold it without letting it hold you hostage. This is the path Jung illuminated, not toward perfection, but toward wholeness. And it begins with a single revolutionary step, turning toward yourself, as you are, and whispering, "No part of you is unwelcome here." If these words resonate with you, it's no accident. This is for those who are done suffering at the hands of circumstance and are ready to reclaim their power. This is for you, the one who feels perpetually outmatched by emotions, as though others hold some invisible leverage over your heart. You don't have to stay stuck in this cycle, but breaking free will require courage, the kind that comes from staring into truths you've avoided. And yes, it will hurt. But this time, the pain won't chain you, it will crack you open. You tell yourself the hurt lives out there, in the harsh words, the betrayals, the love that walked away. But here's the raw reality. Nothing outside you can wound you unless it finds an echo within. The sting isn't in their actions. It's in the dormant ache they awaken. The untended scars, the stories you whisper to yourself in the dark. The loneliness you armor with independence, with "I'm fine," with the exhausting performance of having it all together. Jung understood this. The outer world only mirrors the battles you haven't faced within. That's why one person emerges unshaken from a storm, while another unravels at a glance. It's not the event, it's the soil it lands on. And now, the hardest truth. Your suffering lingers because, secretly, you still believe you can negotiate with life, that if you just try harder, people will love you better, hurt you less. But freedom begins where that illusion ends. Stop trying to control the uncontrollable. You keep pushing yourself to be smarter, stronger, more understanding, as if perfection could shield you from pain. But control is a mirage. The tighter you grip it, the more tension you create, exhausting yourself by predicting the unpredictable and resisting the inevitable. If you want to end your suffering, stop guarding against it. The answer isn't more control, it's deeper awareness. As long as you believe others must change for you to find peace, you remain a prisoner to their choices. Your liberation begins when you realize nothing external can shake you unless it resonates with something hidden inside. And that's where the real war is fought, within the unconscious. What you refuse to see, what you fail to confront, controls you. This is the shadow realm we'll explore next. Prepare to go deeper, because true change starts where you've been avoiding. If this resonates, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming. The greatest illusion, that you're in control. You're not. Not as long as you're sleepwalking, reacting without insight, feeling without clarity, making choices you later undermine. Carl Jung warned, until you bring the unconscious to light, it will steer your life, and you'll call it fate. That's exactly what's happening to you. The sudden rage, the unexplained sorrow, the pain that surfaces without reason. None of it is random. These are signals from buried parts of you, ignored wounds, silenced desires, fears you've refused to face. The unconscious isn't some abstract idea. It's alive, a shadow system of memories, traumas, and instincts that dictate your emotions and actions while you remain unaware. The path to freedom. Shine a light on what you've kept in the dark. Why do some words cut deeper for you than they do for others? Because they strike at the raw, unhealed parts of you, the ones you've avoided rather than faced. You haven't dissolved them. You've swept them into the shadows, where they wait to catch your foot at every step. Jung was right. Acceptance precedes transformation. Denial isn't freedom. It's a cage. And what have you done instead? Criticized, suppressed, muted yourself, as if silence could erase what lives within you. But the unconscious doesn't vanish when ignored. It festers. It leaks into your life as toxic cycles you can't escape, as self-sabotage you don't understand, as dread that surfaces when happiness feels within reach. This isn't coincidence. It's your psyche demanding attention. Yet you keep hitting snooze. Want to stop being wounded so easily? Then stop fleeing from yourself. Because until you face your depths, your emotions will pull your strings. The harder you guard against external pain, the more power internal pain holds over you. But there is a way forward, not through defense, but through wholeness. True resilience isn't built on walls. It's born from understanding. So what does it really mean to be unshaken? And why does real strength come not from armor, but from surrender? Let's go deeper. Many think the only way to avoid hurt is to shut down. They fortify themselves, wear indifference like armor, and declare, "Nothing touches me." But inside, the wound still bleeds. The corrosion continues. The issue was never feeling too much. It's feeling blindly. It's not knowing why you feel what you do. And that only happens when you don't truly know yourself. Jung's warning rings clear. You can master every theory, every technique. But when meeting the human soul, you must meet it as a soul. Yet you keep burying yours behind a facade of control, strength, invulnerability, while the truth beneath it begs to be seen. It demands to be noticed. The world slows, pulled by something ancient and unseen within you. Existence, I've come to believe, is about holding the cosmos in your hands, placing yourself at both poles of the paradox. Light and dark, chaos and order, certainty and doubt. Yet you've spent your life sidestepping the petty darkness, the shadows, the dread, the faults that whisper of your humanity. Your spirit, too, has learned to flee. But here's the truth you've avoided. Freedom isn't in ignoring the shadows. It's in no longer letting them dictate your reactions. When you stop flinching at every doubt, every flaw, you reclaim the power they once held over you. You watch, you decide. You're no longer a slave to emotion, and that's real liberation. Jung named this individuation, the journey to your authentic self, not the version others demand, not the facade you built for approval, but what arises from within, where light and shadow collide, where ego and unconscious meet. Individuation isn't about flawlessness, Jung claimed, but wholeness. You don't need to improve, you need to unite, and here's the untold truth. The more you flee agony, the more it pursues. The more you resist feeling, the weaker you grow. But when you confront your scars, when you embrace every part of yourself, radiant and grotesque, proud and broken, nothing external can destroy you. Yet this path demands bravery. Bravery to gaze inward. Bravery to shed the disguises. Bravery to endure. Because pain holds the secret to metamorphosis. And that's what we'll explore next. How suffering, far from a foe, can unlock your hidden power. Let's delve deeper, this time without hesitation. You were taught to despise pain. Since childhood, you learned that hurt means frailty, that tears are pointless, that emotion is a liability. So you ran. Everything in existence occupies the same space. You meticulously separate your suffering from its faintest ripple, tucking pain into the corners of your mind, trusting it will dissolve. But Jung perceived agony differently. He saw it as the soul's whisper, the unconscious sounding an alarm, the self's raw dialect demanding your focus. He likened despair to a woman cloaked in shadow. When she arrives, do not turn her away. Offer her a seat, share a drink, and heed her words. Yet you refuse. You mute your thoughts, lose yourself in distractions, cling to numbness. Anything to evade the truth. What is this ache revealing? The torment persists because you remain divided. One half yearning to evolve, the other clinging to familiarity. The voice within pleads for metamorphosis, but the ego, desperate for control, smothers it. This tension births pain because transformation wounds. Growth is a rupture, releasing outdated convictions, severing poisonous bonds, permitting decay where life is fated. Each is a requiem, a cycle of endings and beginnings. Yet within this wreckage, rebirth stirs. When all you've built collapses, when pain strips you bare, you finally meet yourself, unshielded, unperformed, unmasked. At that precise moment, suffering transforms into something holy. It forces you to kneel before the one force capable of liberating you, your own self. Jung grasped this truth. He saw that suffering isn't a flaw in existence. It's woven into the journey itself. Pain isn't a dead end, but the first step toward wholeness. Most never make it through the shadowed depths. They turn back, seek distractions, cling to the familiar. But not you. If you've come this far, you're prepared to traverse it. And soon, we'll explore how this passage unfolds, how individuation, no matter how isolating or fierce, becomes the key to true freedom. Let's go deeper. Rare are those who dare to begin the work of individuation, and rarer still are those who see it through. This path offers no safety, no promises, no preservation of the ego, only its dismantling. Jung described individuation as the unfolding of one's true nature, but first comes the unraveling of every false identity. That is the real agony. Realizing so much of what you believed was yours is merely armor. You are not your successes, not your wounds, not the roles you played to earn love or respect. These were survival tactics, not life. And individuation demands you step beyond mere survival. It begins when the unconscious surges, dragging all you've buried into the light. Individuation demands the shedding of the persona. Jung wrote, "The mask worn for the world's comfort. You must strip yourself bare to find what's real." And in that alchemy, you become unshakable. Not because pain no longer touches you, but because you've walked through it. You've met your demons, your shame, your hunger, your rage, and declared, "I see you. You hold no power here." This is the unbreakable strength born from facing your own darkness, a sovereignty untouched by validation or control. You don't need universal approval anymore. You don't have to win every debate. You no longer pretend to be unshakable because you've discovered an unbreakable truth within yourself. Real strength isn't a barrier, it's a foundation. It's the alignment of every fractured piece into a steady presence that endures chaos. Pain may come, but it doesn't shatter you. Hurt may linger, but you remain intact because you've moved beyond reaction into wholeness. You've left shallow living behind and embraced depth. Yet this depth has a cost: solitude. Not because you'll be alone, but because few can walk this path with you. Most remain trapped on the surface, hiding behind masks, afraid to truly feel. As you break free, you naturally drift apart, not from arrogance, but growth. You step away because the old spaces no longer fit you. This leads to the final revelation: awareness as your shield. Protection doesn't come from toughness. It comes from understanding. This is where we conclude: consciousness as the only state where nothing controls you. Let's cross this threshold together. You've come far, and now, a crucial truth must be spoken. No external force can spare you suffering if you ignore your inner world. Words will still wound. Rejections will still ache. Losses will still weigh you down, until you wake up. Awakening isn't a single moment. It's a daily decision. It's facing your shadows, owning every emotion, and releasing blame. Jung once said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." You've resisted endlessly, fearing inadequacy, dreading rejection, aching in loneliness, starving for recognition. And how did you respond? By shrinking, by silencing yourself, by chasing control, perfection, and false strength. Now you're here, drained from battling the world and yourself. But you've learned the truth. Emotional resilience isn't rigidity, it's lucidity. It's not about building walls but widening perspective. When you know your triggers, wounds, and patterns, others lose the power to devastate you. You feel, but don't collapse. You grieve, but don't vanish. That's the shift. True shelter isn't hiding from life. It's plunging into its depths. Surface dwellers are battered by every ripple. Those who dive find calm, strength, and stillness below. That's your destination. When you live from this place of unity, presence, and surrender, the world may strike, but it won't find a target. If these words resonate, if something stirs within you, comment below. I choose awareness. Let's build a tribe of people who refuse to fake strength and instead embrace authenticity. Remember, the next video is part of this journey. Don't stop now. Real change begins when you keep moving. I'll see you there.